On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, I'm joined by a special guest, and we're going to preview and predict this much-anticipated Week 4 matchup of number 19 Colorado at number 10 Oregon. We'll also be giving our 3 keys to the game, and finally, our final score prediction. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Talking all things Oregon football. With your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Welcome into today's edition of the DuckZone503 Podcast. The date is Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, and I am happy to be with you people. I'm joined with a very special guest today. I got Kevin Borba of the LockedOn Buffs podcast, and we are here to preview and predict Colorado versus Oregon. How are we feeling today, Kevin?
Doing good. I gotta say that intro is probably the best podcast intro I've ever seen in my life. So that was... Dude comes in with a crispy fade and the nice beard lineup and then just drops an intro like that. I wasn't expecting it. I'm not going to lie.
I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, we had a Texas Tech guest on here. He complimented the intro as well. I appreciate it. It actually, to be real with you guys, was made on Fiverr. So shout out Fiverr. It's a hell of an app if you guys want anything done for you. All right, guys. So we're both sitting here at 3-0. We got that 3-0 feeling, Kevin. We got that. We know what it feels like. 3-0, undefeated. Very surprising, man. Just want to let you guys know he's here with LockedOn Buffs. You also do other work too. Do you want to let them know what you do? All the teams you cover?
Yeah, so I cover basically the entire Pac-12 and Big 12 for Athlon, and then I also cover Stanford, Utah, and Texas for Fan Nation. So I am all over the place. Chances are, if you like college football, I probably cover your team in some capacity.
That's awesome, man. Busy guy right here. We got Kevin here to preview this Colorado-Oregon game. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribed to LockedOn Buffs as well. I'm giving you 2 podcasts a week, Monday, Wednesday. I like to do recap and analysis episodes. I like to do preview and predictions on Wednesday. I also give you guys full game day experience vlogs at the home games for the Ducks. I'm also going to that Washington game, so that's going to be fun. And guys, make sure to tune in. I was there for the Hawaii versus Oregon game. That was awesome. You already know I'll be there in Eugene for this big-time matchup on Saturday. So on the offseason, I also bring you recruit interviews. I'm at 843 subscribers on YouTube, trying to get to 1,000. Get us there. Tell your friends and family about the podcast. If you listen on Spotify, rate the podcast. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. All right, let's get into it. We got number 19 Colorado, 3-0. Very surprising. At number 10, Oregon, 3-0. As pretty kind of expected, Texas Tech was a little bit of a test, but we got by it in Autzen Stadium, 12:30 Pacific time kickoff. First top 25 opponent for the Ducks this season. Second top 25 opponent for the Buffaloes, if I'm correct. Is it the second for you guys?
Correct, yeah.
Correct. Ironically, the last time that Oregon and Colorado played a big-time ranked matchup like this, Oregon had their own quarterback on a New York City billboard. Some OG fans on both sides may remember that epic 2002 Fiesta Bowl. Oregon won that one 38-16. We can't talk about this Colorado team without talking about head coach Deion Sanders entering his first season. Overall head coaching record of 30 wins and 6 losses. He has his Colorado team off to a fast start. He was if you don't know him already, I mean, it's hard not to know him. He was a star at Florida State, went to play on the NFL from 1989 to 2005. He won 2 Super Bowls as a player. Deion has pretty much been a winner everywhere he's gone. He's legit one of my favorite coaches to watch. I absolutely love how he connects with his players and at the same time can bring that championship level discipline and focus needed to win on the field. You've seen it at Jackson State at the FCS level. When everybody doubted, he comes in and starts winning with a team that just won 1 game total last year. So, Kevin, Deion Sanders is the main storyline of college football right now with everything he's doing at Colorado. What areas do you think Deion made the biggest improvements to help facilitate this rebuild as fast as it appears to be going? Like, what do you think Deion and his coaching staff are doing that the former coaching staffs at Colorado didn't do?
Yeah, I think one thing that the former coaching staff could have never done is had Deion Sanders on staff. I think there's something to be said about how popular he is. I'm 24 years old. I just turned 24 last week. I don't think college football has ever been as popular as it is right now. Like, I have people in my family, my girlfriend's family, like people I haven't talked to since high school reaching out to me and talking to me about Deion Sanders. Like he has an effect on college football that I've never seen. I think the only comparison that really feels fair would be USC when they had Reggie Bush and all that group. But even then, they didn't have social media. And so he uses the power of social media. Like you mentioned, he's a great athlete, was one of probably the best athletes we've ever seen. And he just brings a level of coolness and understanding and kind of like a personable relationship with his players that you don't get very often. And it's very hard to turn down a Hall of Famer as a head coach, because who better to play for than someone who made it to the Hall of Fame and has accomplished everything that you want to accomplish as a player.
100%. Like Deion is absolutely on fire. Like I said, one of my favorite coaches to watch. I love his energy. You know, as a young guy, I'm also 24, by the way. So happy birthday from last week. As a young guy watching this guy, man, that's exactly a coach that I would want to play for. 100%. I love what Deion's doing. We've all seen that viral clip of the Oregon head coach, Dan Lanning, telling the media that, quote unquote, didn't remember Colorado winning anything in the Pac-12 when Colorado decided to jump to the Big 12. I wanted to know, like, what's your take on that? Do you think that was a shot at Deion? And did you think Dan Lanning just made it personal?
I think one of the best things that Deion Sanders is able to do is turn something into nothing, or turn nothing into something. And it's not because he is causing drama. It's not because he's a problematic person. He just has a great way of motivating his players. We saw it against Colorado State. The other coach made a comment about him wearing sunglasses and how his mother raised him not to do it. And so Deion Sanders brings in his mother to the locker room and is like, he disrespected my mom and he disrespected me. And like, it pumps the team up. And so did Dan Lanning take a shot at Deion? No. I think it was kind of just like a factual statement. Colorado has had like 2 winning seasons in the past decade or so. And in the Pac-12, they just were never really a fit. And so wasn't a shot at Deion, wasn't a shot at Colorado right now. But I do think by him saying that, Coach Prime probably figured out a way to be like, okay, he says we're not a big loss because of what we've been, but who cares? So I think he kind of flipped it in that sense. And so it wasn't targeted at him, but he knows how to play the game right, and he's playing it into the sense that it was about them. And if you're a coach, you kind of want something to bulletin board material. I think Dan Lanning's doing a good job of playing it down and trying to explain it, but it's too late. I think it was already quote unquote personal.
100%, man. I love the spin on it. That's what builds the storylines for the games. Dan Lanning was actually asked if he had any regrets on his comments about Colorado in early August. And this is what he said. He said, quote, "No, I don't regret anything that I've said about this program. At the end of the day, obviously, I wasn't talking about Deion's team. But if that serves as material for them, I don't think it's going to have bearing on the game or the success of the game." So with everything we've seen, serve as bulletin board material for Colorado and Deion Sanders, as a fan of this matchup, I was really hoping that Deion would make this personal, quote unquote, with Dan Lanning. Maybe to add some more fireworks for this game so far. But, so far, it's not really been the case. It's been pretty respectable between these two coaches. Here, let's go. We got Deion Sanders kind of talking about the situation. He said this about Lanning: "I respect the hell out of him, or the heck out of him, excuse me. I love the way he runs his team, operates, so I have a lot of respect for him." So love the respect that these two coaches are showing, even though I'd obviously love the drama. I'd love the storylines. As a podcaster, I'd love to talk about that. But it's been pretty much respectful between these two.
Yeah, I think especially, and this isn't kind of to take what on any coach of college football, but there's maybe Nick Saban is the only other coach, but there's no other coaches out of the 133 FBS programs that are as popular as Deion Sanders. It's just the truth. He's the most popular person maybe in sports right now. And so I think part of the reason that he's so respectful is, one, he's a respectful guy. Two, like that, let's get that out of the way. He's just a nice guy. I think he kind of has like a big persona that scares people away. But two, in the back of his head, he probably knows that if he says anything, it'll be blown out of proportion dramatically. So he kind of has to be careful what he says. The same way that teams are giving Colorado bulletin board material, I think he's trying his best to not give other teams bulletin board material to kind of go at them and kind of just do everything possible to stay respectful. And he's a respectful guy. I think a lot of people get caught up in the prime time or like the way he kind of handled last year's roster and think he's a rude guy. And I just haven't gotten that from him.
100%. Yeah, it's good to get that perspective from somebody who covers the team, because on the outside in, as an Oregon fan, it does seem like, he tries to use anything to motivate that team and that bulletin board material. But as you said, it really surprised me when it came out. I respect the hell out of Lanning. It's awesome that Lanning is, saying, yay, it's not anything personal with Deion. It's just talking about the Colorado program in the past. So I love that there. It kind of gets everything in the way. I just want to talk about that real quick because some Oregon fans have the persona of Deion's this rude guy. He's talking, he's talking all this mess, but no, he's actually a pretty respectful coach. I love what he's doing. Let's talk about Colorado so far. They got the win 45-42 at number 17 TCU. That TCU win on the road was the game that raised everyone's eyebrows around the country. TCU came into that game as 21-point favorites, and what do you know, Duck fans? We're 21-point favorites at home, and they won that game. Shocked the nation. Next game, they win 36-14 at home opener in front of a sold-out Folsom Field, 36-14. Nebraska made it a contest for one half, but man, Shedeur Sanders and that Buffalo offense was able to pull away in that second half. And then their last game, everybody probably seen it. I mean, you guys see the viewer numbers. Win 43-35 in double overtime against Colorado State. This game had all the fireworks behind it. You had ESPN College Game Day there. Lil Wayne had a show there on the field, leading the team out. And I also seen The Rock. Our Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups was there. Man, this game had everything to do with it. Insane atmosphere, heated in-state rivalry game. Colorado was expected to win this game by 23 points, but credit to Colorado State for giving them a fight. Overall, the Buffaloes come out with a big-time emotional win in double overtime. They're literally the talk of college football world right now. Every journalist out there is writing about them. Every podcaster is talking about them as we are right now. But the big question is that everybody's asking and debating them is how good is this Colorado team? Because myself included, thought Colorado wouldn't even top 3 wins. And look at that. We're here right now. They're sitting there at 3 wins and undefeated. So I'd be probably one of those guys sitting in the front row. Deion's looking at, do you believe yet? If I was in front of him. So Kevin, what were your expectations coming into the season compared to now? It's obvious that Colorado is better than expected. How good is this Buffalo team? Are they a 7, 8, 9, maybe a 10, 11 win team in your eyes? What do you think?
I think so. Before the season, I had them firmly at 6-6 was my record prediction, which if people doubt, you could go scroll through my episodes and find it. I said that. I went through the schedule and I said there was winnable games. The thing that annoys me the most, though, about my prediction is I talked relentlessly about how I didn't think TCU was going to be that good, and I still picked TCU to beat Colorado. Just never was able to pull the trigger. But I did a recent record update because obviously I was doing it off projections. I was doing it off of the fact that they brought in a lot of good players, good individuals, but I didn't know, like nobody else did, except for them, they themselves, how good they would be on the field. And so now that I've seen them on the field, I had them at about 8 to 9 wins. And people think that's crazy, but realistically, and I think the perfect comparison for them right now, going back to Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, whoever you want it to be, all offense, minimal defense is kind of what their vibe has been. They make defensive plays. They remind me of USC last year, who led the nation in turnovers. They force turnovers every game. So they're timely turnovers, but their offense is always scoring. And so I think offense can win you a lot of games in college football. I don't know how far your offense could take you if your defense can't really stop anybody, but we've seen teams go pretty far with subpar defenses. So I think they're a 9-win team.
Okay, 9 wins. I like it. Yeah, for me, definitely, they're raising the eyebrows for me. I think they're in that 8-9 win. I'd put them right there as well. So the last game you guys played was against Colorado State. There's a pretty significant injury for you guys. Two-way player Travis Hunter went down with a lacerated liver. If you guys haven't seen the play, I'll just show it real quick for anybody that hasn't. So it's two-way star Travis Hunter here. Their quarterback drops back right here. And, of course, we got an ad right when I need it. But anyways, you guys get the point. He gets hit right at the last second. Boom. It was a dirty hit in my mind. What was your take on that? First kind of question about that. Everybody's debating it. Clean hit, dirty hit. I think it was dirty, man. I did not like the play. I don't think the Colorado State player, I heard there's death threats at him. I don't think he deserves that. But certainly not a play I'd like to see if I was a coach coaching the defense. What was your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I think it was kind of it's one of those things where I'm not defending the hit. I think it was a dirty hit. I honestly think he could have made a play on the ball and probably intercepted the pass had he chosen to. But I think he just had a little bit of motivation to hit Travis. I think in football, and we see it in basketball too, as well, when there's star players, you either want to hit him hard to kind of prove a point, you want to foul him hard to prove a point. And I think that's what it was. I'm not trying to defend the hit. I think that's what it was. I hope that's what it was. I hope there wasn't like a bounty out or something. But I think emotions just got the best of him, is what my guess would be. And I think he kind of made a mistake, and now he's unfortunately feeling the wrath of the Deion Sanders and Colorado cult, which I don't think is appropriate for people to kind of be leaking his address and giving him death threats. But the hit was unfortunate. I like Travis's response. I don't know if you saw it. He basically said, it's football. It happens. And I totally agree with it. Coach Prime said the same thing. He had a great game that Henry Blackburn did. And I think it was just unfortunate. I think the rivalry game and kind of Travis's marquee name kind of got the best of that moment. So tough situation. You hate to see people get injured, and you hate to see people kind of receive the backlash that he's getting.
Yeah, 100%. With Travis Hunter going down, that's a pretty big loss. This player logged 126 total snaps playing both offense and defense in that Nebraska game. Does losing Travis Hunter hurt the Buffaloes more offensively or defensively? Where do you think this loss will hurt the Buffaloes most?
Yeah, I think offensively they'll be fine. It's not to say that Travis Hunter wasn't beneficial to the offense. He's obviously a top 5 player in college football, but they have so many good receivers where it's like they could live without him and still be fine. They came back without him. I think it's the defense where I'm super concerned. And it's not just because one, he's their best defensive player, but two, there's injuries all over the secondary, all over the corner spots. They brought in Cormani McClain, the 5-star recruit who Coach Prime said, I think it was yesterday or today. I think it was today. That he's just not ready to play and probably won't play these next coming weeks. And so they're just down to whatever's left at corner. They're missing a few guys, and Travis Hunter was a dynamic player that kind of shut down one side of the field. And so I think this is kind of like the negative way to look at it, but the defense was struggling with Travis Hunter on the field. Like he was locking down and doing his own thing and making great plays and stuff. So now that he's off the field, and there's other people injured, I don't know what to expect from this defense, but they're getting some guys back. But they're also losing some, but I worry about that defense a lot more than the offense.
Colorado, they kept only, it looks like 10 scholarship players from last year's team. Mm-hmm. The transfer portal was certainly Deion's best friend. There's a lot of top end talent on this Colorado team, but depth was an area of concern coming into the season. And now you're facing some pretty key losses in this game. Who does Colorado have in place behind Travis Hunter? I think you kind of touched it. Cormani McClain, the nation's #1 defensive back in last year's class, appears not to be ready. Do you think there's going to be a big drop off there, or do the Buffaloes, do you think they'll be just fine despite the loss, or, who do they have behind them?
I feel like it will be a fairly decent drop off from Travis Hunter. Obviously he's we talked about a little bit earlier, he's like a top 5 player in college football. So losing that, not ideal. They have guys who have played. Kendrick Breedlove transferred in from Ole Miss, and he played, I think, pretty much the whole game this past week against Colorado State after Travis went down. And so he has experience. They're supposed to be getting some experience back in the Florida State transfer named Travis J. So hopefully he could help them out in the secondary somewhere. But yeah, they lost a freshman named Carter Stottmeyer, who was a 3-star that kind of took everybody by surprise, because when you talk about the freshman defensive back at Colorado, everyone's like, oh, Cormani McClain. And it's like, actually, no, it's this 3-star kid who's playing really well. So they have guys like Travis J. I'm sorry, Kendrick Breedlove, his name just slipped my mind. He'll play. And Omarion Cooper was also from Florida State, and he's been starting opposite Travis Hunter. So they have guys. It's going to be a committee. They're probably not going to throw somebody out there all game. They're probably going to rotate guys nonstop. So whoever gets hot will probably be in there the most, or maybe they'll just play the strengths based off of looks.
Yeah, when there's big games like this, it always kind of sucks when there's a big loss due to injury. You really want to see 2 good teams come in fully healthy. Mm-hmm. Are there any other kind of major injuries on this Colorado team that we should know about, or are the Buffaloes pretty much healthy?
There's a injury, non-injury update. They're getting Alton McCaskill back, which he's making his debut for Colorado. He's a running back who transferred in from Houston, was a All-American, freshman All-American, was the American Freshman of the Year. And I think that's a huge addition, because up until this point, I don't know what the yardage is now, but I know as of last week, they were averaging under 2 yards a carry. So he should be their best running back and kind of give that running back room a major boost because he's a 3-down back. They could kind of take some pressure off Shedeur, take some mileage off Shedeur, not allow him to get hit as much. So I think that's an injury to kind of work in their favor. He's back. Other than Travis, I think I mentioned the other young defensive back, Carter Stottmeyer. He's banged up. I'm trying to think of who else. I think that's it. Mostly the defensive backs. Like it's kind of iffy there.
100%. For Oregon's side of things on injuries, our offensive guard, Nishad Struther, he's a transfer from Eastern Carolina. He's yet to play a snap for Oregon. He was kind of projected to be a starting guard here. So he's yet to play, but there are reports of him starting this week. He has been practicing and with contact. So I don't know if he's going to play this game. As an offensive lineman, it might take some time to get a couple more weeks for him to get in and get fully ready for the season. And then we also have linebacker Justin Jacobs, a transfer from Iowa. He's yet to play a snap. He's also coming off an injury from last year, pretty bad injury. I think it was a knee injury, if I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he's yet to play. He's also another player that was expected to be a pretty, take a lot of snaps for the Ducks. Nishad Struther, both Justin Jacobs, both of them. But good thing is Nishad Struther is getting back to practice. We'll still keep an eye on Justin Jacobs. I don't expect any of those guys to play this game. When Oregon gets them back, though, I'm sure Duck fans are going to absolutely love that. But you know what I love, guys? I love watching sports and making money. I'm in love with Mojo Fantasy. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds and selections into fantasy contests. Here's how it works, guys. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app that lets you make moves after the game starts, so you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just let them hang on and let them ride. Cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. Get the same live player props, odds, and cash outs as Mojo's New Jersey Sportsbook. You can trade sports like stocks. You control the action, ride your picks, cash out, or enter new positions instantly. And there's no house advantage, guys. You can beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio to climb the leaderboard and win cash prizes. That's it. Make picks, make moves, make money. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time deposit. Link in the description for more. All right, Kevin, let's go ahead and talk about this Colorado offense. We all know about Deion Sanders' son. We got Shedeur Sanders. Here it is. Bam, pull that up. Okay. We got Shedeur Sanders, Buffalo's quarterback. He's already thrown for looks like 1,251 passing yards with 10 touchdowns and just 1 interception. Personally, I knew that Shedeur was a pretty damn good quarterback, but I wanted, I'm a big see it before I believe it guy. And, just like any player coming from the FCS level, I wanted to see how Shedeur would fare against P5 competition. And he has definitely impressed the whole country and I. Mel Kiper, the guy that does his whole NFL draft stock rating, has Shedeur Sanders as a projected top 10 pick when at the beginning of the season, he wasn't even on his radar. So from the perspective of someone who covers the team, what impresses you most about Shedeur Sanders in this passing attack?
Yeah, I think it's probably his accuracy. I think if you have the stats in front of you, I don't have them in front of me right now. I think he's probably completing like 75% of his passes, if I had to guess. Like he's as accurate as they come. And I think there was a lot of questions specifically for him, whether or not he'd be trying to force throws at this level, because at Jackson State, he was obviously on a much more talented team than everybody else. And he has a huge arm. And I think a lot of the times he got away with things. And that was like his biggest criticism. I would talk to people. I would talk to guys who evaluate players constantly. And it was like, if he tries to make some of these throws that he made at Jackson State, where he forced it into tight windows, it's not going to work out. And he doesn't really force anything. He threw his first interception this past week, which ironically, it was against Henry Blackburn, the guy who hit Travis. So they were kind of little ongoing beef there. But yeah, I think he's just as accurate as they come. He has a huge arm, and I think for lack of a better term, he just has ice in his veins. We saw it when he went Tom Brady mode, as he said. That last 2-minute drive, there was just kind of like a feeling from those around Colorado, where it's like, yeah, they're gonna score right here, and they're gonna get a 2-point conversion. Like, it's just like every time he gets to the ball, I'm more shocked, or people are more shocked if they don't score. I don't think we've seen the punter that much this year.
100%. We all, as Duck fans, we all know that feeling when Bo Nix goes and throws the ball. It just feels like every time he's completing it to a receiver. And statistically, he is. Bo Nix is at 76%. Shedeur Sanders is at 78% completion rating. So both these quarterbacks is going to be absolute. Get your popcorn. It's going to be fun to watch. We just talked about how the Buffaloes will be without Travis Hunter. Who are some other weapons that Shedeur Sanders will have to his disposal?
Yeah, I think you got them up there on the screen, or Xavier Weaver on the left there, and then Jimmy Horn on the right. Xavier Weaver is kind of, if you go check me out on LockedOn Buffs, I was talking about him. I have some ties in South Florida. I know a lot of people from South Florida, and everybody was very excited about Jimmy Horn and the spring ball he had. He was the first guy to earn his number at Colorado, but it was Xavier Weaver who I was told repeatedly would probably emerge as the best receiver. And I think that's proven to be true. I think he's Shedeur's favorite target. He's kind of just always open. And that, what better target for a quarterback than someone who's always open? I've also been pleasantly surprised by Tavarish, excuse me, the Auburn transfer. He's kind of a burn you downfield type of guy, speedster. They've used him on trick plays as well to run the ball. He's just always open as well downfield on certain plays where Shedeur finds him. And then Dylan Edwards is the freshman running back who I'm interested to see what his role is now that Alton McCaskill's there, because he's on the smaller side. He's probably like 5'8". I would say 165, 170 would be generous. Super tiny. And so now he's not really a between the tackles type of back. And so I'm like, does he move out to the slot? Do they let him be more of a pass catcher now? So he's someone that you could look out for. And then apparently the tight end, Mikey Harrison. I wasn't really expecting much production out of any of the tight ends this year, just because Sean Lewis typically doesn't use tight ends that much. But he had 7 catches, 2 touchdowns this past week, and really put on a show for Colorado football, and came up with I think it was the game winner, or at least the game tying touchdown. So yeah, they have a lot of weapons, and which is why I said earlier, I think they'll be fine without Travis Hunter, but they're more likely to succeed on offense than they are on defense.
100%. On the offensive side of things, are there any matchups for this Colorado offense against this Oregon defense that you see maybe you can serve as a big advantage for Colorado?
Yeah, I think the secondary, honestly, unless it's a shutdown secondary, I think Shedeur Sanders has a chance to pick them apart. And realistically, the secondary did really well against Texas Tech. I watched that game, but there was also moments where Tyler Shuck was kind of slicing and dicing down the field and kind of making plays with his legs. And while Shedeur doesn't run as often as Tyler does, or some of these other quarterbacks, he can run and he can extend plays. And so I would say Oregon's secondary's ability to stay with receivers if Shedeur's on the move would be my biggest kind of thing I'd look out for, because I think he's just really smart. And I think that's kind of a secondary's worst nightmare, is a quarterback that's smarter than you.
100%. It was assumed that you guys, if you bring in 5 new whole offensive line from the transfer portal and try to pair them together, it's kind of assumed that in a short off season, they're probably not going to expect many good results. Well, you guys are sitting there at 3-0. Offenses look phenomenal. How would you grade this Colorado offensive line so far?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like I'd go maybe like a C-. If you look at Shedeur's sack numbers, I think he's been sacked like 15 times already, which he was sacked only 23 times all of last year. So we're 3 games in, and he's basically on track to be sacked like 40 to 50 times is what it feels like, which is not great. But the reason I give them like a semi-pass, I mean, a C- gets you a degree. We all know it does. But the reason they get the C- is they've had good moments. I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want to make it seem like they're just terrible and Shedeur's always running for his life, because they've had moments where they protect him quite well. But then they've also had moments where he's getting sacked, and it's like you don't want Shedeur Sanders to go down, because if he goes down, the backup quarterback situation is just freshman and a walk-on. So I'd give him a C-. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think they'd say the same.
100%. Yeah, 16 sacks. That's a lot. But I've seen the games. I've watched Colorado obviously this season, and yeah, they protect him just enough time. That's all Shador needs. They got a quarterback. That's all he needs. And on Oregon side of things, the offensive line has been definitely a strength for Oregon. They've only allowed 1 sack all season. They only allowed 1 sack through 8 games last season. They replaced 4 out of 5, so it was a kind of a big question mark coming in for the Ducks. But so far, so good. The running game has been a little bit of a question mark. It's kind of fallen off from last year, so that's kind of been a little bit of question mark. But they're pretty deep. They can go 8 deep on the O-line. They got a lot of depth. They rotate a lot of guys up front, so pretty much a strength for the Ducks. Switching up to the defensive side of the ball here for Colorado. Who are some key players for the Buffaloes that the Ducks should be watching out for?
Yeah, I think outside of Travis Hunter, I think you got to look at a name like Trevor Woods is up there on the screen. He's just always in the right spot in the right time. He's one of the 10 holdovers from last year. Or not, I think it was 9 now. I think they lost someone else, but 9 or 10, whatever the number is. He's like always in the right spot. And I don't think you could coach that. I think sometimes like some guys just have a knack for being there. They have a knack for reading things. And then also Jawan Mitchell has been huge in helping their run defense. He transferred in from Texas. He went from Texas to Tennessee to Arizona State, was kicked off Arizona State's team after a week. So I was really interested to see how he'd mix with after only being at Arizona State for a week. And he's kind of like I don't want to say like someone to worry about, I guess you could say, in terms of like culture a fit, I guess. But he's been great for Colorado. The run defense has still struggled, and this might be the week that Oregon's run game gets going, just because that's how it's been working out for Colorado. But Jawan Mitchell is constantly making plays. And then I've been giving a lot of praise to Jordan Dominiqk, the Arkansas transfer. He had like 8.5 sacks last year at Arkansas, but it's been Taj Alston, the West Virginia transfer, who's kind of been making a lot of plays for them. And so the defensive line, while they've been struggling, obviously it's kind of difficult to pull out positives when you're giving up like 250 yards a game, but they make plays when it's necessary. Then obviously Shiloh Sanders, who you got on the screen as well, had a big pick 6. And I think he kind of has his father's genes where he's just going to make a play. And that's just what it is. 100%.
Yeah, he was making plays all last week. That was a great game for him. You also mentioned player Jordan Dominiqk. Just got to say, man, legendary last name. Probably the best last name I've ever. Just no bias. All right, guys. No bias there. No bias. So where would you say, Kevin, where does this Colorado team kind of hang their hat on defense? What part of the defense is the strongest for them, would you say?
I would say it's the safeties. They have 6 or 7 starting caliber safeties. Like all of the safeties that transferred in started somewhere else. And I think that's pretty insane. It's pretty crazy to think about that safeties max. You have 3 of them on the field and they have like 7 that could start. So that's unfortunate because obviously if say that was the defensive line, Colorado would probably be dominating teams. Like if you had that many defensive linemen that were playing as well as they are. But yeah, I would say the secondary safety wise, corner wise, I'm now a little concerned about as we talked about earlier. But yeah, I'd go with the safety specifically, not the entire secondary.
Yeah, for the Ducks defense, I'd say it has to be for us the front 7 so far. They generated some nice pressure to allow them to force some turnovers. The Ducks currently sit at +6 in the at turnover margin. I know the Buffaloes have definitely turned teams over as well. The front 7 for the Ducks getting pressure on Tyler Shuck in week 2 at the end of that Texas Tech game was what allowed Oregon to get that pick 6 and steal that game in Lubbock. So Kevin, what do you think what do you think this Buffalo's defensive coordinator, Charles Kelly, needs to do to slow down this Oregon offense that is currently top 5 in the country, statistically speaking?
Yeah, there's 2 things, and I think one of them is limit Bo Nix. Don't let him hurt you with his legs. He's obviously a great passer, but the thing with Bo Nix is if he sees an opportunity to run, he will outrun pretty much everybody on the field. And we saw it when they played Nebraska. Jeff Sims, he had a horrible game, but he did have like a 75-yard touchdown run. And I'm surprised Nebraska didn't try to make him run more. And I think obviously Bo Nix is a much more advanced passer, but he knows when it's time to run. And I think that's something they need to look out for. And then this one is kind of like a late addition. We saw it against Colorado State, the crossing routes. Colorado's kind of playing a bend, don't break defense right now. And they were certainly bending. I don't even know if I'd call that bending. The Colorado State crossing routes were just absolutely killer. They had 3 receivers go for over 100 yards, and that if Oregon's able to get, like, say, Troy Franklin out in the middle of the field or anyone out in the middle of the field, it's going to be tough. They need to improve that somehow.
100%, man. I'm here with my guy, Kevin Borba, host of the LockedOn Buffs podcast. I'm Dominiqk Peterson, host of the DuckZone503 Podcast. If you guys enjoy content just like this, if you want to support the podcast, here's your way to do it right here. What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Dominiqk Peterson, host of the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Very excited to announce we just launched our very first merch store. Men's and women's t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stickers, phone cases, mugs, and cups are all sold at DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. If you want to go grab one of those today, that's DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. Store link will be in the description below as well. All right, Kevin, it's time. Give me your 3 keys to the game. What 3 things does Colorado have to do in this game to upset the Ducks in Autzen Stadium Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, just a second. Let me pull these up. Oh, there we are. Okay. I was going to say, I forgot what I said, but I know I texted to you. One, slow down the run, because even though the Oregon running game, Bucky Irving, hasn't really been clicking for whatever reason. They didn't need him, obviously. They won by like 75 points the first game. But slow down the run. That's kind of been where a lot of teams have hurt Colorado. I don't know why, like specifically TCU, had TCU just kept running the ball, they probably would have won that game. So they got to prevent those big runs. They got to prevent teams from getting like 7 yards per carry. Put up a lot of points. That seems obvious, but I'm just working under the assumption that Bo Nix may have 1 or 2 mistakes, but they're probably going to put up points on that Colorado defense. So if you're Colorado's offense, you have to keep scoring. We talked about earlier where we assume that they're going to score every time. Colorado literally has to score every time. Otherwise, things could get scary. It could get scary hours up there in Eugene, and you don't want Bo Nix with a 2-touchdown lead. That'd be tough to come back from. And then limit Bo Nix's damage with the legs, like I talked about a little bit ago. Great passer. He's a very polished quarterback. He's improved greatly from his time at Auburn. But one of his biggest traits and best traits was his ability to run. I've seen it multiple times where no one's open downfield and he'll just take off, and all of a sudden he's running for 30, 40 yards. And so they can't have that, because that's what will hurt the defense and kind of take out their momentum.
Love it, man. Love those 3 keys to the game. We'll see if Colorado can get that done. Here's my 3 keys of the game here for the Ducks to get a win over Colorado in Autzen Stadium. Number 1, I have rush for 250 plus yards total. Oregon can go, I said this earlier, about 8 deep on that offensive line, constantly keeping their offensive linemen fresh. Then you pair that with the 3 running backs they can bring in, Bucky Irving, Noah Whittington, and Jordan James, coming at you all night long. It can make for a long night for a defense. Colorado is currently ranked number 122nd in total defense. They're allowing teams to give up 6.3 yards per play. Oregon is 4th in the country in total offense. Colorado ranks 119th in stopping the run. They're allowing 195.5 yards per game on the ground. I have a good feeling that Oregon will be able to reach that 250 plus number that I have as one of my keys and control the tempo of this game with their offensive line. Number 2, I got get pressure on Shedeur Sanders. I'd really like 4+ sacks. The last 2 games, this defensive line has really came through with 6 total sacks. They put up 4 total sacks in the major road win against Texas Tech. Getting pressure on Tyler Shuck was a huge deal in that ball game for the Ducks to come out on top. Hawaii and Braden Shager came into Autzen Stadium last game as the nation's leading pass offense, and the Ducks were able to hold them to just 131 passing yards last game. Consistent pressure up front forced that quarterback to get the ball out quickly, and the defense has enough speed to make the tackles in space. A key recipe for success for the Ducks will be getting consistent pressure on Shedeur Sanders to slow down this hot passing offense that Colorado's bringing in. Number 3, I got don't beat yourself. Low turnovers and penalties. This has been a major talking point the last couple of weeks for the Ducks, and it's getting to the point where Dan Lanning is getting tired of answering questions about it to the media. The unforced penalties must go away. The last 2 games for the Ducks, 23 penalties for 200 yards. The 25 penalties, the 25 penalties total on the year for the Ducks puts them at number 114th for least penalized team in the country, and number 100 for least penalty yards in the country. 2 places you just can't be in if you're trying to win the conference, and even more. With those amount of penalties, you're essentially playing two teams at a time. You're playing your opponent, and then you're playing yourself. And that's hard to stop. It's essential that the Ducks focus up and keep these penalties down. Don't beat yourself. Don't turn it over. Don't give Shedeur Sanders even more opportunities to score. All right, those are my three keys to the game there. Let's go ahead and give our prediction. Who you got winning this game, Kevin?
Yeah, I think I've been a little all over the place with my predictions for Colorado, but I think they can win this game. Until I see an offense that is able to outscore them, I'm going to go with them. I think the 21 line is like ridiculously Vegas is usually like money with what they do. I mean, that's their jobs, but they're like usually electric with the lines. And like Colorado, I don't think they've even come close once. So my prediction is Colorado wins a shootout, may go to overtime, 42-37. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair.
Boom. There you guys have it. Our boy Kevin from LockedOn Ducks has Colorado upsetting them on Saturday. Big prediction there. I'll absolutely love it. Makes for great anticipation for the game.
Yeah, could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be right. So hopefully I'm right.
It's definitely a flip of the coin. We did not see this game being as like a premier matchup as Duck fans coming into the season, and now it is. And Shedeur Sanders in the offense definitely has the capability of, like you said, picking the Ducks apart. That secondary is not proven yet. They're sitting there at number 15 in the country. But again, we played Portland State in Hawaii. Texas Tech was a little bit our test there, and Tyler Shuck was a little bit successful with his feet and arms. So I could definitely see that. All right, guys, let's get into my prediction here. What do I think is going to happen? So I want to start out my prediction here with a quote from SportsIllustrated.com that I read. This is from Fan Nation about this game. It says, quote, "Despite the hype coming in, the computers are leaning heavily for the Ducks, who are projected to win this game outright based on 93.8% of 20,000 simulations the index runs through to pick winners." Quote, "Controversially, that leaves the Buffaloes as a projected winner in just 6.2% of those simulations." Guys, since 2021, the Ducks are 14-1 at home. Only loss was to Washington at home last season by 3 points. We should have won that game. I won't talk about that too much. The last time the Buffaloes won in Autzen Stadium was in 2016 when Oregon went 4-8 that season. The data and the history books are on my side here. I also think that Oregon just has too much depth across the board on both sides of the ball for Colorado to hang in all four quarters with the Ducks at home. Bo Nix, he's a Heisman contender and has, four legit wide receivers to throw to. Troy Franklin, leading wide receiver on the team. Tej Johnson, 1,000-yard receiver last season at Troy. He's been a huge asset for this team. Gary Bryant Jr., former USC Trojan, put up 107 yards in week 1. He could definitely ball out. And Trayshawn Holden, Alabama transfer, he had two touchdowns last week against Hawaii. I have a good feeling that the offensive line will be able to control the tempo of this game, and that the depth up front will be the major factor in this game, especially since Colorado, let me remind you, is coming off a long, emotional double overtime win from their in-state rival. Defensively for the Ducks, it's still a bit of a question mark, although it seems as if the Ducks have made significant improvements through recruiting and the transfer portal. The Ducks currently sitting at number 30 in the country in total defense, a good spot you want to be in if you're a Duck fan. The Ducks are currently listed as the nation's, as I said this already, 15th best pass defense, but I need to see more. Like I said, with Shedeur Sanders coming into the league, I'm a big see before I believe type of guy, so I need to see it. This game is going to be an absolutely great test to see how much they've improved from last year. The defense had a fair performance, I'd say, against Tyler Shuck and Texas Tech. A big part of that Texas Tech game for Oregon was able to create pressure on the quarterback, something that they made big strides in from last season. Colorado has allowed 16 sacks in 3 games. We've already highlighted that. I think Oregon will be able to create pressure throughout the game to make Shedeur feel a little more uncomfortable than he has all season long. I think that Shedeur Sanders in this Colorado offense is a lot more explosive than Texas Tech's offense is. I have a feeling that Colorado will be able to score and hang in the game, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to stop Oregon run game at the end of the day. I got Oregon 52, Colorado 31 is my final score prediction. I think this will be a close game throughout 3 quarters. I just think up front, when Colorado starts getting a little bit tired, Oregon's throwing offensive lineman after offensive lineman after running back after running back. I think it's going to take a toll on this Buffalo team. They're coming off a double overtime win, big emotional win. How many times can you shock the world? I'm going to take my bet on Oregon here. I think I have them covering as well with that 21 number. So if you're Colorado, for me, the 3 things you need to have happen in this game if you're going to win. I think you need to have a fast start. Go up like 14-0 in the first quarter or something. This is going to be an electric atmosphere. And if the Buffaloes are 3-score underdogs, a fast start can really help install some confidence on the road. I think they're going to need to win the turnover battle. Colorado's been pretty damn good at turning teams over so far. I think they have 10 forced turnovers in 3 games. Pretty damn good. Now, Oregon, they have not turned the ball over all season. I'm knocking on wood here that they don't. So, we're going to see. I think if Colorado wins the game, they'll be able to force some turnovers on Oregon. And then the last thing, I think Shedeur, like you said already, just needs to be magical. I don't think, Colorado is going to be able to stop Oregon's offense at home. I think if Shedeur is just magical and it's a shootout game, Shedeur is your man. So those are kind of my 3 things for Colorado. But in the end, I think it's going to be Oregon 52-31 in the game, man. You got any final thoughts about the game before we move on to the next segment here? The last segment of the show.
I'm excited. I think there's a lot to be proven. I think for Colorado, the biggest thing that stands out to me is they might have a running back that can help them control the tempo, like you talked about with Oregon. So maybe that plays a role. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's what college football is all about.
100%. All right, Kevin. So this is the segment that I didn't tell you about when we first got here, but I like to do it on my preview and prediction episode. It's just a quick pick them around the conference. We're going to look at the Pac-12 game. Just do a quick, you don't got to give us final score prediction, but just who's going to win the game.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start. Let's start with UCLA and Utah. Big matchup. Number 22, UCLA. Number 11, Utah. This is a quiet, really good game. Not many people are talking about it. UCLA, Dante Moore, quarterbacks look really good. Utah, I'm not sure if they have Cam Rising yet. They're 3-0 undefeated, tough schedule. Should have lost that Baylor game, but they escaped. Utah's at home here. They're really good at home. I'm going to go ahead and take Utah on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think from what I've been hearing, Cam Rising is working his way there. But if I had to bet money, I don't think he'd play. But then again, who knows? They like to play these games in Utah. So I'll go with Utah though. I think they figured out what to do with their backup quarterback.
100%. Yeah, Utah's just really good at home. Okay, we got next game, Arizona sitting there at 2-1 at Stanford, 1-2. Stanford's kind of coming on down here. They did beat Hawaii. Arizona's on the road. Stanford gets home field here, 4 p.m. kickoff. The farm at night can do some crazy things, but Arizona, I just think they got too much on offense. I think it's going to be tough for Stanford to handle them. I got Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arizona. Stanford's a team that I cover closely, like we talked about, and they're the least experienced team in the Power 5, and I think this is a growing year, kind of a get experience year, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be an ugly year, and this might be one. I think this is their last game for 5 or 6 weeks that's not against a ranked opponent, so it's going to be tough.
Damn. 100%. Okay, so we got number 14, Oregon State, 3-0. Number 21, Washington State, 3-0. This is I want to kind of shine here a little bit. I said Washington State was going to be a damn good team, and here they are. They beat Wisconsin. I had them beating Wisconsin. A lot of people call me crazy. I thought they were going to be a damn good team. Here they are. Oregon State, we knew they were going to be a good team. They have a really good defense coming in. This is a sneaky good matchup as well. Oregon State, I think they're slightly favored. I'm not sure. I didn't even look at the spread. I don't even want to say that. But if I was to guess, I would guess that Oregon State is slightly favored in this matchup. They'd be perceived as a little bit better team. Washington State's at home here. It's at 4 p.m. That place can get absolutely insane. We know Pullman and their fans. They pack the place. Give me Washington State. I'll take Washington State over our little brother, Oregon State.
Oof. I forgot what podcast I was on there. I was like, they're probably going to go with the Beavers here. They have to. And then I was like, oh, that's right. No, I'm just kidding. I think Oregon State wins. I think I have Oregon State actually making it to the Pac-12 title game. And I think this is a step in the right direction for them. And it's the final two Pac-2. It's the Pac-2. So this is for all the marbles of the Pac-12 championship right here.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to add that in. Pac-2 championship. Here we go. Oregon State going to the Pac-12 title game. Man, I'd say that's a semi-hot take. Not a lot of people got that going on, so I like to hear that. Okay, we got Cal at Washington at night, 7:30 p.m. Close your ears, Husky fans. They don't want to hear that. Cal coming in at night. I think it was Chris Peterson years. For some reason, Cal was get the best of Washington. Is it going to happen again? I just think Washington at home at night. This Washington team is explosive. It's dangerous. It scares me because Oregon has to go play him in about a couple weeks here. Man, I think Washington will win this one. I do think that Cal will give them a nice test. Cal, I think they'll test them. I think it's going to be closer than people anticipate. But I do have Washington winning at home. Give me like a score of like 35-25 or like 35-23, something like that. I think it'll be closer than people expected.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Washington. They're a team that I think could go really far as well. They're just their offense is too high powered.
100%. Okay, last game on the docket here. We got USC at Arizona State traveling to the desert. I'm just gonna go ahead and say USC. Arizona State just did not look good. USC, top 5 team in the country at this point. USC.
I got no. I'm just kidding. No, I think Arizona State might be like the worst team in the Pac-12 from what I've seen. So I'm going to go with USC here.
Bam. Okay, there you guys got it. We got the Pac-12 pick'ems there. Our man Kevin, he's got Colorado 42-37. I got our Ducks 52-31. Appreciate you, Kevin, for coming on the show. He'll probably also maybe be here to preview and predict the Stanford game after this. So be on the lookout for him. Kevin, where can people find you on social media? Where can people find all the work you do?
Yeah, you can find me at social media at Kevin_Borba. And then social media, my work, I'm over at Athlon, like I mentioned. I cover the Pac-12, the Big 12, Colorado, and then I'm also covering Stanford and Texas over at Fan Nation as well. So go check me out. I wrote some interesting articles today. I wrote about Aaron Rodgers and using dolphin sex for healing his Achilles. I wrote about the new look Pac-12. Like, I'm writing about everything.
Man, that's interesting. Man, this guy's a busy guy covering a whole bunch of teams. Man, I try to do my best to do 2 episodes a week for the Ducks, and I feel like I wear myself out. I can't imagine what you're going through, my guy. All right, man. Kevin, yeah, 100%, man. The grind is real. I love it. All right, well, it's going to be absolutely electric on Saturday, guys. I'm going to be there vlogging the game. You guys know how I do on the channel. Full game experience, vlogging the whole thing. I'll be there from the tailgate to the ride to the game, from after the game, the whole thing. So tune in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Rate this podcast on Spotify. Appreciate it for everybody tuning in. I'll be back here on Monday to recap and analyze the game. As always, guys, go Ducks. I'll see you in the next one.